one. This is from SiteGround. Again, we have the message, description, call to action. We have also some pricing information here and a supporting image. Envato Elements has a slightly different hero area here. They showcase free courses. They have a counter for how many items were added this week, and also provide links to illustrations, to fonts. So it's very much tailored to what the website has to offer. If it was like an online store, it would probably present some products or special offers. Well, here it's displaying links to categories, to certain items, and so on. Monday.com has a slightly different hero area. Again, we have the strong message, but the call to action here is a bit different than the rest, because you basically can select a bunch of these elements, and it's a really cool technique here. The gradient actually changes as I'm selecting or deselecting multiple categories. Pretty cool. So you're basically selecting a bunch of these, and then you get started, and that's going to take you, to a sign-up page, and moving forward to an experience that's tailored to you based on what you selected earlier. Very interesting. Craft has a very simplistic, minimalistic hero area, strong message, call to action, and then a small announcement here. And then Timely has something similar. So again, the message, the call to action, which in this case asks for an email address. We have the supporting media, and then also some benefits for signing up, which is really, really good. So that's a sample of a couple of hero areas from real websites, just to show you kind of an overall structure and what you can expect from this kind of common pattern. Now, let's see some key takeaways. A hero is the area immediately below or next to the header. Because it's positioned above the fold, a hero is considered prime real estate, so it displays critical information. A lot of hero areas show sliders, but usually they display a strong message and a call to action. All right, so now that we have an idea of what hero areas are all about, let's go ahead and design one for our website. Coming up. Okay, so previously we designed the header for the website of Robert Fox, and if we look at the wireframe, right below that, we can find a hero area. So let's take that and work our magic. The first thing I'll do is actually resize this index page to 1800 in width. I forgot to do it last time. And then I'll simply resize this bit, and I'll reposition the guide like so. And then I'll add some extra guides here. And those guides will help me size up the content for this hero area. So I'm going to add the first guide at 256, which is a multiple of 8, like so. And then another one on the other side. And that's going to be placed at 1544, just like that. So now we have 256 pixels of distance between or on the right side and on the left side of the page. So now for this element, we're going to use an H3 that we defined here in the typography stage, and we created a text style for it. So let's go back and choose H3 from here. And as for the fill color, I'm going to use the brand gradient. Then this is the main message. So I'm going to choose an H1. And for color, I'll choose black, and let's resize this a little bit. And also let's make a bit of room. I'm going to select some of these elements. I'm going to make this a lot bigger. And I'm going to select this. And I'm just going to push it down like so. And I'm using the arrow keys while holding down Shift. And also, I don't think I'll be needing this line here, so we'll just delete it. Next up, I'll grab the text and I'll choose the paragraph style for it. And for fill color, we'll go with black 75. And that's what I like to usually do. Headings, I usually leave them on the black color that we defined. But for regular text, I go with a bit of opacity, in this case 75%, just so there is a bit of contrast between the lighter text or the smaller text and the bigger text. Then I'll select this text and I'll resize it to fit within my guides, like so. And this is actually a group, so let's ungroup this for now. And ungroup this. And let's properly resize it like that. And now what I can do is select all of this, Shift A to add auto layout, and I'm going to select 32 pixels of spacing between these items, and I'm going to align everything to the middle like that. Then I can also play around with the width of this text element, maybe make it something like that. A little bit bigger so the text fits in 2 lines. So with that done, the only thing left to do here is work on this button. We'll do that in a future lesson, but for now I want to add a bit more spacing between the button and this text. So because that distance is higher than 32 pixels, which I have set right here in my auto layout, we can do the following. We can select the text and the button, Shift A to create its own group with auto layout, align everything to the middle, and then we'll set this distance to 96 pixels. 96 is also a multiple of 8, so I'm using the 8-point system in all aspects of this design. And finally, we need a bit of breathing room, a bit of distance between the contents of this hero area and the element above, which is the header. Currently, this distance is 141, but I'm going to move this to 256. And I'm going to remember this number because that's the distance I'll be using between all major sections of the website. So 256. And with that, my hero area is almost done. We just need to make this button, but that's for the next lesson. Cool beans. So now it's your turn to design the hero area, and you can do it in any way you want so that it fits whatever style you've been using so far. If it's exactly the same as mine, great. Otherwise, be more adventurous with it. And also you can use the examples of hero areas that I showed you previously for some added inspiration. Now, let's see about that button that was left unfinished. So let's give it the final coat of paint. That's coming up. I think everybody knows by now what a button is, but just in case, let's do a quick recap. In UI design, a button is a fundamental interactive element that serves as a middleman between the user and the product or service. That's because buttons are gateways, right? You click a button and it takes you to a different page. For example, you land or you open a landing page, and by clicking the button in the hero area, it takes you to the sign-up form for that service or the product page for that product. And buttons can also perform certain actions, like, for example, toggling the visibility of an element, doing something in the back end, or opening a window in that page. So they're really versatile. They're not used only for navigation. With that said, let's take a look at some real world examples. Here we have the website of Avocode, and we have a couple different buttons. Let's take it from the top. This one will basically take us somewhere else, as do these two. So these two are actually part of the call to action. We also have two other buttons here for cookies, and by clicking these, they perform an action, right? They close that UI element. We also have a button here that says Start Free Trial. This is also part of the main call to action from the hero area. Here's another button that's not used for navigation. This opens up a pop-up for this support module, and this closes it. What about this website for Notion? So on the login page, we have 3 buttons here that will basically take us somewhere else or perform a certain action. But if we go to the main website, again, we have a button that closes that pop-up, and the rest are used for the call to action. They will take us somewhere else. Same goes for the Adidas website. We have 3 buttons here for the call to action. But if we look here, we also have 2 buttons that don't really take us anywhere else, but instead they perform a specific action in the UI, in which case they cycle through a bunch of slides. And if we scroll further down, we can see some other buttons that will take us to other pages. Here we have a button that opens up filtering and stuff. And as you can see, we have several visual styles for buttons. So these that you saw up here, they have a certain style. These here, they have a certain style. These have a certain style. And also these have another different style. These are with text and icon. So within the same website, you can have 2, 3, 4 different styles of buttons. Let's see another example, the Timely website. Right off the bat, we can see 2 buttons for the call to action, right? So they share roughly the same style, but they have small tweaks to them depending on where they are. So the button in the header is white and it turns green on hover. The button in the hero is a darker color and then turns green on hover. So, they're different, but they also share some common features. Like, for example, the hover color, they're both rounded, they use the same font, and so on and so forth. What about YouTube? YouTube has a lot of buttons in its interface. All you got to do is hover on a specific video and you have 2 buttons here for watch later and add to queue. If you open a specific video, there are a couple more buttons here on the video player. Play, next one, make full screen, theater mode, this default view, and so on. So as you can see, buttons are really versatile elements, and they can be used for both navigation and also for performing certain actions in the back end. For example, if I click the save button here, that's going to save it to my watch later list, and that's performing an action in the back end. So, a few key takeaways. In UI design, a button is a fundamental interactive element that serves as a middleman between the user and the product or service. Buttons are not used solely for navigation. They can perform various actions like toggling an element's visibility, performing a task in the back end, etc. All right, so now that we saw some use cases for buttons, let's turn our attention to the buttons in our project. That's coming up. My hero area is incomplete at the moment because I still need to design that button. So while I do that, I'll also give you some tips and tricks for designing good looking buttons and also usable buttons. Let's begin.